Friends, welcome to this session. In this session, we are going to learn about forms of igneous rocks. So, in this session, we will start with a basic introduction to the igneous rocks and introduction of the forms. Then we will specifically learn about first about the intrusive forms and then about the extrusive forms of igneous rocks. Then we will learn about the importance of these forms of igneous rocks and also how we can recognize them in the field. And lastly, we will summarize what we have learned in this session. So, let us start. We know that igneous rocks are one of the three major rock types. The others are sedimentary rocks and metamorphic rocks. Igneous rocks are formed due to cooling and consolidation of hot molten rock material. The molten rock material occurring below the earth's surface is known as magma, and when it comes out or erupted on the surface of the earth, it is called lava. The study provides valuable insights to the earth's interior, the plate tectonics and also geological history of that area. The deep seated magma in the magma chamber ascends due to buoyancy or any tectonic activity and intrudes into the country rock, which is also known as host rock, or it may come out at the surface and solidify. When the magma reaches to the earth's surface, it forms extrusive igneous rocks. When magma rises through the crust, it forcefully displaces pre-existing crusted rocks that we know as host rock or country rock. Igneous body is called intrusive when magma solidifies beneath the surface of the earth. Now, if we want to study about the intrusive rocks, how we will study them? We understand about the intrusive igneous activity from the study of the old and now solidified magma bodies which are exposed by erosion. The intrusive or extrusive igneous rock bodies can occur in variety of forms. The primary are depending upon how they are, it is known as concordant when the igneous body runs parallel to the bedding or foliation plane of the country rock. It is known as discordant body when the igneous body cuts across the bedding or foliation plane and penetrates through the country rock. Igneous rocks can be classified in various ways, including by their texture, mineral composition and also by their mode of occurrence. One of the classification is also based on the forms in which they occur. So, there are two primary forms of igneous rocks. One is known as intrusive forms and second is known as extrusive forms. Let us now learn about intrusive igneous rocks and the forms created by them. Intrusive igneous rocks form when magma cools and solidifies beneath the earth's surface. Since this process occurs at a slow rate, large crystals have time to develop, leading to coarse grained textures, which is known as phenolitic texture. There are several forms of intrusive igneous rocks, which are shale, dike, laccolith, lopolith, batholith, stocks and boss. We will learn about these forms one by one. Now, let us first start with the shale. Shale is a concordant igneous body which lies parallel to the planar structure like bedding and foliation plane of the country rock, as you can see in this figure. These sheet like masses of igneous rock penetrate into the country rock and spread out parallel to the bedding or foliation planes. Now, it is important to note that shales are horizontal. They are the sheet like intrusions of magma that solidify parallel to the existing rock layers. They form when magma is injected between the sedimentary rock layers without breaking through the surface. This is a figure that shows about the shale, how it is a concordant body, and also it shows a dike that is a discordant body. And this figure shows the right side, the field photograph of a shale. Now, coming to the dike, it has been derived from a Scottish word that means a wall of stone. It is a discordant igneous body of more or less tabular shape, and it exhibits a cross-cutting relationship with the country rock. Dike is a wall-like masses of igneous rock cutting across the country rock, which may be igneous or sedimentary or metamorphic rock. It is formed by solidification of magma penetrated through the fissures or fractures in the country rock. Now, this field photographs show a dike where you have in the left side there is a dike including Deccan lava flow. On the right, it is a dike that intrudes granite in Ladakh batholith. So, dike are vertical or steeply inclined intrusive rock formations that cut across pre-existing rock layers, and they form when magma forces its way through cracks or fissures and then solidifies. It is often composed of dolerite or basalt and may extend for great distances. So, dike generally is a few feet in thickness and commonly occurs in the groups. It may exhibit some pattern when it occurs in a group. So, based on their pattern, it can be called as radiating dikes or arcuate dikes. Here is a figure that shows radiating dikes. It is when different dikes seem to radiate from a common center. The arcuate dikes, it is called when there are several dikes that form arc-like structure. There is also ring dikes when arcuate dikes occur in the form of more or less a complete circle or a ring. Now, there is also another intrusion form that is known as cone sheet, that refer to sheets of an igneous body which occurs in the form of inverted coaxial cones with thin layers of country rock lying in between them. As you can see in this figure, however, the cone sheets and ring dikes both have near circular outcrop on the surface, but the ring dikes are nearly vertical. The cone sheets otherwise converge toward the apex of the cone. So, that is the basic difference between the ring dikes and cone sheets, as you can see in this figure. Now, coming to the next form, that is laccolith. It is more or less concordant intrusive dome-like masses of igneous rock arcing upward and has a more or less flat floor. It is lens shaped, formed by igneous rocks pushing up the overlying rock, as you can see in this figure. It gets exposed after long continued erosion. In the typical laccolith, the diameter is only few times greater than the thickness, and it forms when magma is injected between layers of sedimentary rock or any other rock, causing the overlying rock to bulge upward, and they generally have a mushroom like shape with a flat base and a dome top. Bismuth is another form, and it is a special type of laccolith which is roughly vertical cylindrical igneous intrusion bounded by steep falls. It results into a cylindrical plug like mass. It is a body where the roof uplifts along a circular or arcuate fault. Now, the next form is lopolith, and this word has been derived from the Greek words lopas, that means basins. It is more or less saucer or basin shaped sunken concordant igneous bodies which are concave upwards in the form of basins. It is similar to laccolith but have a concave structure. It is typically composed of mafic or ultramafic rocks like gabbro and peridotite. The next form is phacolith, which is concavo-convex concordant igneous rocks which occur along the crest and trough of folds of the country rocks. So, this is a specific case. The phacolith is formed in the fold. Conolith is an igneous intrusion whose form is so irregular that it cannot be classified as a laccolith, dike, seal or any other recognized body. Now, we come to the batholith. Bathos means depth and lithos means stone. So that is what it means. It is the largest intrusive of all igneous bodies. It occurs as a huge linear structures extending several hundreds of kilometers. They are the platonic igneous rock masses which occupy the core of the mountain, like in Ladakh batholith, and also Mount Abu batholith. They are always made up of granitic and intermediate rock types and are often referred to as granite batholiths. They are formed at some depth below the earth's surface and exposed only after the removal of the overlying cover of the rock masses due to erosion. Batholiths do not have determinable floor but have steep walls, and they, as we discussed earlier, they are the largest intrusive igneous bodies, and the areas may be covered by them that could be more than 100 square kilometer, and they are generally composed of granitic rocks and form deep in the crust, and they get exposed at the surface after extensive erosion removes the overlying rocks. The next form is the stalk, that is an intrusive mass of plutonic igneous rocks, but it is smaller in the size than the batholith, and it usually possesses more or less circular or elliptical cross section. It is similar to batholith, but as we said, it is smaller in size, generally less than this 100 square kilometers, and it could also be composed of granitic rocks and can be a part of larger batholiths. And as we discussed earlier about the batholith, this also may become exposed at the surface due to erosion. The next form is the boss. It is a mass of plutonic igneous rocks or stalks which has circular outline upon the surface. Let us now recollect what we have learned here. We have talked about the batholith, that is the largest intrusive body, but that covers vast areas, and generally the size and shape is massive and irregular, and how they are formed, they form deep underground from the repeated magma intrusions. Stalk, we have learned that it is similar to the batholith, but it is smaller than a batholith, and the composition could be similar, and generally the size is less than 100 square kilometer. Again, it forms by cooling of the magma below the surface, that without reaching the size of a batholith. Laccoliths are dome shaped intrusion that bulges upward, and generally they are lens shaped or mushroom like. It is formed when the magma pushes layers, the rock layers above, forming a convex shape. Lopolith is a saucer shaped concave downward, and it is large layered, and magma spreads laterally, settling in layers. That is how the lopoliths are formed. Sill is a horizontal intrusion between rock layers, and it is generally sheet like, and it is formed when the magma flows parallel to the rock layers and solidifies. Dike are the vertical or steeply inclined intrusion cutting across layers, and it is formed when magma forces its way through cracks in the rocks and solidifies. Phacolith is a lens shaped found in folded regions along the synclines or anticlines. It is a concordant body, and it forms in the folded mountain belts along the crests and troughs. So now let us come to the extrusive igneous forms. They form when the lava erupts onto the earth's surface and cools rapidly, and because of this rapid cooling, these rocks typically have fine grained textures or may even be glassy. Unlike intrusive rocks, the extrusive rocks have fine grained or the glassy textures because of the rapid cooling, which prevents formation of large crystals, and basaltic lava flows easily, forming extensive plateaus, whereas the andesitic and the rhyolitic lava is more viscous, that may form dome shaped structures. So there are various extrusive igneous forms like lava flows, lava plateaus, volcanic cones, calderas, pyroclastic deposits, fissure eruptions, etc. Let us now learn about them one by one. Coming to the first one, that is lava flows. It occurs when molten lava spreads over the earth's surface and cools and solidifies. Lava erupts from volcanoes or fissures and spreads based on its viscosity. So, they can be classified based on their texture, and this kind of igneous forms are common in volcanic regions like in Hawaii. The second form is lava plateaus, which is formed by extensive lava flows covering large areas over time, and they result from repeated fissure eruptions that leads to accumulation of basaltic layers, like for example the Deccan traps. Volcanic neck is a pipe-like elevated discordant igneous monolith mass in which lava consolidated. The volcanic landforms on land comprises of various things like cinder cones, which are easily eroded as they are composed of unconsolidated volcanic materials. So, the volcanoes on land are continually being eroded and lowered by the process of weathering. Even after the most of the cones have been eroded away and the rock occupying a volcanic pipe being composed more often of a resistant material that may remain standing above the surrounding terrain. And the best known volcanic pipes are the diamond bearing structures of the South Africa. The rocks filling these pipes must have been originated at a depth of at least 150 kilometers, where pressure is so high that it could generate diamonds and other high pressure minerals. Now, the volcanic cones are formed by the accumulation of lava, ash and volcanic debris around a volcanic vent, and they could be of different shapes and sizes. Let us learn about them. So, one of the volcanic cone type could be shield volcanoes, which is large broad volcanoes with gentle slopes formed by low viscosity basaltic lava. Then there are second type, that is stratovolcanoes or composite volcanoes. They are steep cone shaped volcanoes built from alternating layers of lava and ash. Then there is the cinder cone volcanoes, which are small steep sided cones made of pyroclastic materials like ash and cinders. Now coming to the next one, that is calderas. These are large basin like depressions formed when a volcano collapses after a massive eruption, and these calderas can then be filled with water, and in this way they might form crater lakes. Then lava domes, that are steep sided dome like volcanic structures, and the viscous lava piles up near the vent instead of flowing, and that is how the lava domes might form. Then comes the pyroclastic deposits, which include ash, pumice and volcanic bombs ejected during explosive eruptions, and these materials can accumulate to form ignimbrites or tuff deposits. Then there are fissure eruptions. They occur when magma reaches the surface through long cracks, that is known as fissures, other than a central vent. So, this produces extensive basaltic lava flows as seen in the mid-Atlantic ridge. If we can recollect all those extrusive forms of igneous rock that we have just learned about, the lava flow, that we know that it is a molten rock that erupts and sheet like and spreads across the surface, and there could be sheet like, and it could be quite extensive, and it is formed by magma when it erupts and flows and cools rapidly. Volcanic cone, they are the cone shaped accumulation of lava and the pyroclastic materials, and they could be conical, steep sided or shield like, and they are formed by repeated eruptions that build up a cone around the vent. Calderas are formed by violent eruption that empties the magma chamber and causes the collapse of that. So, it is a large depression formed by a collapsed volcano, and generally the size is and shape is circular and bowl shaped. Fissure eruptions, it is lava emerging from cracks instead of central vent, and it is generally long and narrow. Pyroclastic deposits are the fragments of rock ejected from a volcanic eruption. It could be irregular and could be layered deposits, and it is formed by explosive eruptions that eject ash, lapilli and volcanic bombs. Lava domes are the steep sided dome like volcanic structures, and typically it has dome shape, and it is formed when the viscous lava piles up near the vent instead of flowing downward. Now, we have learnt about the forms of igneous rocks, both the forms that are intrusive and extrusive. Now, why do we study them? It is important to study these forms of igneous rocks, because understanding these forms helps geologists interpret the past geological events, predict volcanic activity and also locate valuable mineral deposits that might form near to them. Intrusive rocks reveal deep earth processes, while the extrusive rocks shape the surface through volcanic activity. And by studying their different forms, we gain insight into the dynamic nature of our planet, and this helps us in understanding the volcanic activity and also the Earth's history. And at times they might provide evidence of past mass extinctions like the Deccan traps that is generally linked to the extinction of dinosaurs. So, by studying these different forms of igneous rocks, we gain insight into the dynamic nature of our planet. Now, how do we recognize those intrusive and extrusive rocks in the field? We can identify them by several ways, primarily by their texture, and the minerals are generally large enough to be seen with the naked eye in the case of intrusive rocks, and generally no layering or bedding is seen in this as in the sedimentary rocks, unlike the sedimentary rocks. The hardness of these rocks are generally very high, and they are generally resistant to the weathering. When we come to the mineral composition, they generally contain feldspar, quartz, mica, amphiboles and pyroxenes, and the grain size and mineral arrangements could also be helpful to recognize them in the field. And the intrusive rocks generally found in the mountainous regions, the eroded terrains, or it could be exposed as batholiths and stocks. Now, coming to the extrusive rocks, how we can identify them in the field? We can generally find them in the areas which are associated with volcanic activity, and these rocks generally are fine grained or may have glassy textures. Why? Because of the rapid cooling, and the density, these extrusive rocks are less dense than the intrusive rocks due to the presence of vesicles. Now, let us summarize what we have learned in this session. We learnt about various kinds of igneous forms of igneous rocks. We learned that intrusive igneous rocks, we also know as plutonic rocks, they form beneath the earth's surface when magma cools slowly within the crust, and this slow cooling process allows large crystals to develop, resulting in a coarse grained texture. And these rocks are usually composed of minerals like feldspar, quartz, mica and pyroxenes. So, these rocks occur in various forms depending on how the magma intruded into the surrounding rocks and also the shape of the igneous body that has formed. And the common forms of intrusive rocks are, and the common intrusive forms are seal, dike, laccolith, bismuth, lopolith, phaccolith, conolith, volcanic neck, patholith, stalk and basis. And the intrusive forms are that we have just learnt. Extrusive forms are lava flows, lava plateaus, volcanic cones, calderas, pyroclastic deposits, fissure eruptions, etc. If we can summarize them, batholiths are the large deep seated bodies, stalks are the small batholith like bodies but smaller in size. Laccolith are the mushroom shaped intrusions that pushes the overlying layers upwards. Lopuliths are the saucer shaped intrusions. Sills are generally the horizontal sheet of igneous rock which are parallel to the existing layers, whereas dikes are vertical or inclined igneous intrusion that cut across rock layers. Phaccoliths are the lens shaped intrusion that are found in the folded mountain belts. And the lava flows, which are the extrusive forms, they are the streams of molten rock. The lava plateaus, which are extensive lava sheets. Volcanic cones are the shield, different types, shield, stratovolcano, cinder cones. Calderas are the volcanic collapse craters. Then the ash, pumice and the volcanic bumps are the example of pyroclastic deposits. And then when the lava flows from cracks, it develops fissure eruptions. The lava domes that are steep-sided dome-like volcanic structure. So, we have learned that intrusive igneous rocks provide important clues about the Earth's internal processes and the tectonic activity, and they serve as valuable mineral resources, and they influence the development of landforms and help geologists reconstruct the geological history of an area. Thank you.